What do you do when the world you conquered is gone, and the new world you inhabit wants to conquer you? What happens when a king is put in a cage with men who only respect the laws of the cage? This is a story about that moment. A story about a reputation so vast it could not be contained by concrete walls and steel bars. It is the second week, just 14 days. The location is the Indiana Youth Center, a misnomer of a place, a cage for men, not boys, built from gray cinder blocks and colder intentions. Plainfield, Indiana, a town whose name belies the complexity of the drama unfolding within its most infamous institution. The year is 1992. The air is thick with the ghosts of past glories and the stench of present realities. The man at the center of this storm is no longer a champion. He is inmate number 922335. A string of digits meant to erase a name that once shook the entire planet. The routine of the prison is a slow, grinding death of the soul. The morning count, the clanging of trays in the mess hall, the endless, monotonous hours in the yard where the sun beats down on a kingdom of broken men. It is here, in this compressed universe of desperation and dominance, that the old laws of the outside world are tested. It is here that a challenge will be issued. A challenge that will either become a cautionary legend or a forgotten footnote in the brutal history of the institution. The air in the recreation yard smells of dust, sweat, and cheap tobacco. It smells of simmering rage. Hundreds of men drift in orbits of their own making. Small groups clustered by affiliation, by race, by the unspoken codes of survival. They walk. They lift weights forged from scrap. They play cards. They stare at the walls. They wait. They are all waiting. They are waiting to see what the new arrival will do. Because the new arrival is not just another inmate. He is a fallen deity. He is the man who was once called the baddest man on the planet. A title earned not in back alleys or prison yards, but under the blinding lights of arenas in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. A title forged in violence so pure, so explosive, it was considered an art form. He is the youngest heavyweight champion in history. A man who possessed a ferocity that terrified opponents before the first bell even rang. He had owned mansions. He had owned tigers. He had owned the fear and admiration of millions. Now, he owns a 6x9-foot cell. He owns a standard-issue gray uniform. He owns the suffocating weight of his past and the terrifying uncertainty of his future. In the yard, he keeps to himself. He walks the perimeter, a solitary planet in a galaxy of dying stars. His movements are economical, deliberate. There is no wasted energy. His head is shaved, his face a mask of contemplation. He is reading. He carries books with him, histories of great leaders, philosophical texts. He is trying to understand the man he was and the man he must now become. But the prison does not care for philosophy. The prison cares only for power. And in this world, power must be demonstrated. It must be proven, again and again, in the harshest of crucibles. Across the yard stands another kind of king, a king of this specific, brutal domain. He is not a world champion. He has no titles recognized by any athletic commission. His accolades are the scars on his knuckles and the fear in the eyes of other inmates. He is a lifer, a man who has spent more of his existence inside these walls than outside. His body is a roadmap of prison confrontations, thick with muscle, built not for sport, but for survival. He is the apex predator of this enclosure. His word is law in the cell blocks. His crew controls the contraband, the seating in the mess hall, the very rhythm of inmate life. He has built his empire on a foundation of intimidation and sudden, shocking violence. He sees the arrival of the famous boxer not as a curiosity, but as a threat, a disruption to the delicate ecosystem he rules. The presence of the former champion is a challenge to his own mythology. In the stories the inmates tell, he is the strongest, the most feared. But now, there is a new story being whispered. A story about a man who fought for millions of dollars, who knocked out legends with single punches. This cannot stand. The conflict did not begin with a shout. It began with a whisper. It started in the mess hall over trays of lukewarm food. The challenger, holding court with his lieutenants, spoke just loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. "He ain't nothing in here," the challenger had said, gesturing with his fork toward the solitary figure of the boxer. Take away his fancy gloves, his referee, the bright lights. He's just another man. Soft. World soft. The words spread like a virus. From the mess hall to the cell blocks. From the laundry room to the workshop. Soft. The most damning indictment in a place built on hardness. For days, the tension coiled. The boxer could feel it. The stares lingered a second too long. The whispers stopped when he walked past. He knew this language. It was the same energy that filled a dressing room before a title fight, but stripped of all sportsmanship, all rules. This was something more primal. The boxer did nothing. He continued his walks. He continued his reading. He showed no fear, no anger, no acknowledgement of the rising tide. His calm was misinterpreted. It was seen as weakness, as confirmation of the challenger's assessment. Finally, the challenger decided to make his move. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The sun was high, baking the concrete of the yard. The guards in the towers were lethargic, their eyes glazed over by the heat and the monotony. It was the perfect stage. The challenger and his crew walked across the yard, their path parting the other inmates, like a ship through water. They stopped directly in front of the boxer, who was leaning against a wall, a book held loosely in his hand. The yard went quiet. Not silent, but quiet. The dull hum of conversations died down. The clanking of weights stopped. Every eye turned to the confrontation. The challenger was smiling, a predator's grin. "Heard you were the baddest man on the planet," he said, his voice a gravelly boom that carried across the yard. "This here is my planet, and on my planet, you pay respect to the king." The boxer slowly closed his book, using his finger to mark his page. He looked up, his eyes meeting the challenger's. His gaze was flat, unreadable. There was no emotion in it. "I don't want any trouble," the boxer said. His voice was surprisingly soft, a high-pitched lisp that seemed incongruous with his fearsome reputation. The challenger laughed. His crew laughed with him. "Too late for that," the challenger said. "See, we got a little tradition here. New arrivals, especially famous ones, they gotta prove themselves. People are saying you're soft, that you're nothing without a ring. I think it's time you showed us." The challenge was defined. It was public. It was undeniable. To refuse was to accept the label of coward, to live out his sentence as prey. To accept was to risk injury, solitary confinement, and an endless cycle of violence as every other ambitious inmate would seek to make their name on his. The stakes were absolute. For the challenger, it was about cementing his legacy. He would be the man who broke the world champion. His legend would be sung in prisons across the country for decades. His reign would be undisputed. For the boxer, it was about survival. But not just physical survival. It was about preserving the core of who he was. He was not a yard brawler. He was a professional pugilist, a practitioner of the sweet science. He did not want to descend into this world. He wanted to transcend it. But the world was forcing his hand. He had everything to lose. His chance at an early parole, his health, the quiet peace he was trying to build inside his own mind. The boxer let out a slow breath. He tucked the book into the waistband of his trousers. "You don't want this," he said, his voice still quiet, but now carrying a different weight. A note of warning, a hint of the storm that lay behind the calm. The challenger took this as fear. "Oh, I think I do," he spat. "In fact, I'm not the only one. There's a line of guys behind me, all waiting their turn. They all want a piece of the great champion." He gestured behind him, where his crew and other hopefuls stood, a physical line of challengers. A cue for a beating they thought they would be delivering. The terms were set. There were no rules, no rounds, no bell, no referee to step in and save a man from himself. This was not a sport. It was an execution. The crowd of inmates tightened its circle, forming a makeshift arena in the center of the yard. They were a wall of silent, hungry faces. They were the judges, the jury, and the spectators to a trial by combat. The guards in the tower saw the circle form. They saw the two men in the center. They did nothing. This was part of the prison's self-regulating mechanism, a pressure valve. Let the animals sort themselves out. As long as no one died, it was easier to file a report later than to intervene now. The narrative returns to this moment. The sun is a merciless hammer. The concrete radiates heat. The air is thick enough to drink. The challenger is in his element. He peels off his shirt, revealing a torso covered in crude prison tattoos, a tapestry of his life's violent chapters. He bounces on the balls of his feet. He shakes his arms out, loosening muscles built for this exact purpose. He is performing for the crowd. He is the peacock, displaying his feathers of aggression. He shouts, "Come on, champ! Let's see that fancy footwork. Let's see that $1,000,000 punch." His voice echoes off the drab walls. It is the only sound. The boxer remains still. He does not remove his shirt. He does not bounce on his feet. He stands in a slight crouch, his hands held low, almost casually at his sides. He is a study in potential energy, a coiled spring. His stillness is a profound and terrifying contrast to the challenger's frantic motion. The challenger's arrogance peaks. He sees the boxer's quiet posture not as a professional stance, but as the hesitation of a man who has forgotten how to fight without the structure of his sport. He decides to end it quickly. He lunges forward. The pivotal action begins. It does not last minutes. It does not last 10 seconds. In the memory of those who witnessed it, it seems to happen outside of time altogether. The challenger throws a punch. It is a wild, looping right hand, a haymaker thrown with the full force of his considerable body weight. It is a punch designed to shatter a jaw, to end a fight before it has even begun. It is the only kind of punch he knows, a punch born of rage and brute strength. For the boxer, the punch is moving in slow motion. He has seen this punch 1,000 times, in sparring partners, in opponents, in his own nightmares. It is the punch of an amateur, all power, no technique, wide, telegraphed, and hopelessly off balance. He does not step back. He does not duck under. He makes a movement so small, so subtle, it is almost imperceptible. He slips. His head moves just 2 inches to the left. The challenger's fist, a piece of granite meant for his temple, slices through the empty air where his head used to be. The force of the missed punch pulls the challenger forward, his body overextended, his defense is completely gone. For a fraction of a second, the challenger is suspended in a state of catastrophic vulnerability. And in that fraction of a second, the boxer unleashes a lifetime of training. It is not a single punch. It is a scientific equation of violence, solved in a blink. The narration slows to a frame-by-frame dissection of the event. First, the boxer's back foot pivots, grinding into the concrete. His hips, the engine of all his power, rotate with explosive speed. That rotational energy travels up his torso, into his shoulder, a left hook, thrown not with the arm, but with the entire body. It is a short, compact, devastatingly precise blow. It travels no more than 6 inches. It connects to the challenger's liver. The sound is not a crack, but a dull, wet thud, like a sledgehammer hitting a side of beef. It is a sound that bypasses the ears and is felt in the chest of every man watching. The challenger's body convulses. An involuntary gasp escapes his lips as every nerve in his torso screams in unison. His brain, which was prepared for a blow to the head, has no defense against this systemic shock. His legs begin to buckle, but the boxer is not finished. Before the challenger's knees can hit the ground, a second punch is already on its way. A right uppercut. It flows from the first punch in a seamless, fluid motion. The same kinetic energy that powered the hook now flows into the second strike. His hand comes up from below, invisible to the challenger, whose head has dipped from the body shot. The punch connects squarely on the point of the chin, the button. The impact snaps the challenger's head back with sickening violence. His jaw is slammed shut, his teeth clack together. The shockwave travels up his skull and collides with his brain, rattling it against the bone. The lights go out. The shocking outcome is not a fall. It is a collapse. The challenger's body goes limp, all structural integrity gone. He is a marionette whose strings have been simultaneously severed. He drops straight down, a dead weight, onto the hard concrete of the yard. He does not stir. A single tooth, dislodged by the uppercut, skitters across the dusty ground, coming to a rest near the boxer's foot. It is the only thing that moves. The yard is now completely, utterly silent. It is a silence more profound than any noise, a vacuum of sound. The hundreds of inmates who form the circle are frozen. Their mouths are agape. Their eyes are wide with a mixture of shock, awe, and primal fear. They did not just witness a fight, they witnessed a master craftsman at work. They saw the chasm between a prison yard bully and a world-class killing machine. The difference was not one of degree, it was one of species. Collective disbelief hangs in the hot, still air. The inmates stare. They look from the crumpled form of their fallen king to the still figure of the boxer. The boxer has not moved. He stands over the body, his hands unclenched at his sides. He is breathing normally. He is not excited. He is not angry. He looks down at the man on the ground with an expression that is not triumph, but something closer to pity. He had told him, "You don't want this." The line of other challengers, the men who had been so eager for their turn just moments before, has vanished. It has melted back into the larger crowd. The men who were part of it now stare at their own hands, at the ground, anywhere but at the boxer. They are re-evaluating their own mortality. The boxer turns away from the fallen man. He walks not toward the crowd, but toward the challenger's crew, the lieutenants who are standing frozen, unsure of what to do. He stops in front of them. He is not threatening. His posture is relaxed. This is the master's explanation. He does not need to raise his voice. Every man in the yard is straining to hear his quiet words. "Take care of your man," he says, his voice soft. "Get him to the infirmary." He pauses, letting the simple, non-aggressive instruction sink in. "And tell everyone," he continues, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the crowd. "This is over. This is not what I do anymore. I'm here to do my time. I'm here to read my books. I am not here to be the king of this place. I have no interest in that." He looks back at the challenger's crew. "You push me," he says, and for the first time, a sliver of the old iron enters his voice. "I push back. That is the law, but I am not the one who started this. Understand? Leave me in peace." His explanation is not about technique. It is not about the liver shot or the uppercut. It is about intent. It is a philosophical statement delivered through the medium of overwhelming violence. He is teaching them the principle of effectiveness over aggression. He demonstrated that his quiet, disciplined focus was infinitely more dangerous than the challenger's loud, unfocused rage. He showed them that true power does not need to announce itself. It simply is. The crew, a moment ago so full of swagger, can only nod. They are like children being reprimanded by a force they cannot possibly comprehend. They scramble to their fallen leader, lifting his dead weight and beginning the slow, humiliating walk toward the infirmary. The circle of inmates breaks. The spell is broken. Men begin to shuffle away, talking in hushed, reverent tones. They are processing what they have seen. They are recalibrating their understanding of the world. The boxer walks back to the wall where the confrontation began. He reaches into his waistband, pulls out his book, and finds his page. He leans against the wall and begins to read again, as if nothing has happened. The challenger's acceptance does not come that day. It comes a week later. He is released from the infirmary with a wired jaw and bruised ribs. His reign is over. His aura of invincibility has been shattered. He is now just another inmate, a man with a story of spectacular failure attached to his name. He avoids the yard. He eats quickly, his eyes downcast. He is a ghost in the world he once ruled. One afternoon, he sees the boxer sitting alone in a corner of the library. He hesitates. He battles with the remnants of his pride. Then, he walks over. The boxer looks up from his book as the man approaches. He shows no surprise. The challenger does not look at him directly. He stares at the table. His voice is quiet, mumbled through his wired jaw. I just wanted to say, I was wrong," he stammers. It is the hardest thing he has ever had to do. The boxer says nothing. He simply waits. "I never saw it," the challenger continues, his voice filled with a genuine, painful confusion. "The punches. I never even saw them coming. How?" This is his true surrender. The admission of a skill so far beyond his own, it seems like magic. The boxer closes his book. He looks at the humbled man. "You fight with anger," the boxer explains, his voice patient, like a teacher. "Anger makes you strong, but it also makes you blind. It makes you predictable. You load up all your power into one big swing because you want to hurt the other man. You think about the destination, the impact. He taps his own temple. I don't fight with anger anymore. I fight with geometry, with timing. I don't think about the destination. I think about the path. I saw the path your punch was taking before you even started to throw it. You showed me everything you were going to do with your eyes, with your shoulders, with your feet. You were screaming your intentions. He leans forward slightly. The punches that knocked you out, he says, were thrown from a place of calm. No anger, no emotion. Just a problem and a solution. That's why you couldn't see them. You were looking for a brawl. You got a math problem instead, and you were not prepared for the answer. The challenger finally looks up, his eyes meeting the boxer's. He sees no malice there, only a deep, weary wisdom. He understands. He has been given a profound lesson, not just about fighting, but about life. His arrogance had made him blind. His rage had made him weak. He nods slowly. Thank you, he says, the words barely audible. He turns and walks away, a transformed man. He is no longer the challenger. He is the learner. That event became a legend. The story was passed from cell to cell, from yard to yard, from prison to prison. It was embellished, mythologized. Some versions said the punch was so hard it cracked the concrete. Others said the boxer never even moved his feet. But the core of the story remained the same. The day the prison yard bully tried to test the fallen king. The day a line of challengers was erased by a single, definitive statement of skill. No one ever challenged the boxer again, not for the rest of his sentence. He was granted a new kind of status, not one of fear, but one of profound respect. He was an untouchable, an anomaly, a man who operated by a different set of laws. He was left alone, to walk his perimeter, to read his books, to serve his time in the quiet peace he had so violently secured. The long-term impact was significant. The learner, the former king of the yard, changed his life. The public humiliation became a private catalyst. He started reading. He enrolled in prison education programs. He understood that the physical power he had worshipped for so long was a fragile, limited thing. He had come face to face with a power built on discipline, intellect, and thousands of hours of dedicated practice. The encounter didn't just knock him unconscious. It woke him up to a new possibility for his own life. For the boxer, the event was a confirmation of his own transformation. He had used his old tools, the tools of destruction, not for glory or money, but to carve out a space for peace. It was a melancholy victory, a demonstration that the monster he had tried to tame was still there, sleeping just beneath the surface, ready to be called upon when necessary. It reinforced his desire to pursue a life of the mind, to ensure he would never have to rely on his fists again. And so, the explicit moral of this story becomes clear. There are different kinds of strength in this world. There is the loud, boastful strength of the bully, the strength that relies on intimidation and the fear of others. It is a strength that needs constant validation, that must always be proving itself. It is powerful, but brittle. Then there is the quiet strength of the master, the strength born from 10,000 hours of repetition, from discipline, from a deep understanding of principles. It does not need to be announced. It does not seek validation. It is calm, it is patient, and it is absolute. True power isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It is about being the calm center when the storm hits. It's about having a skill so profound, so deeply ingrained, that it becomes a part of you, an undeniable truth that requires no argument. It is the difference between a man who acts strong and a man who simply is. And in that concrete yard, on that hot Tuesday afternoon, inmate number 922335 taught an entire prison the difference. He did it without raising his voice. He did it in less than 3 seconds. He did it with a math problem, delivered by his fists. A lesson that echoed off those gray walls and continues to echo to this day.